I rise to support this bill since it aims to bridge a fundamental gap in our society in the direction of what might be succinctly expressed. What did you say?
बोलिए. Please start speaking. No problem. I can hear.
In the direction of what might be succinctly expressed as Bachpan Bachao. With the various amendments moved by the Honorable Labour Minister to the 2012 version of this bill is a step in the right direction since it harmonizes the seemingly conflicting objectives of the Right to Education Act, the objectives of the Skill India mission, and the dire need to preserve and enrich the paramparagat generational continuity in arts and crafts that constitute the idea of India. I shall commence with the theme of Bachpan Bachao. When we grow older, the first sign of aging dawns on us with impaired cognitive faculties and slow but steady progress of impaired memory. But it's a wonderful gift of God that while the memory of our recent past fades, the events in our distant past get etched with clarity in our memory. The glorious years of carefree childhood, with all the attendant fun, frolic, idiocy, and madness, comfort us, insulating us from the rigors of aging. As Tom Stoppard says, if you carry your childhood with you, you never become older. But let us introspect on the plight of those millions of children who never had a bachpan, who never had a childhood, mainly because of poverty. While I was studying this bill, I was filled with wonderment how we have been chasing shadows ceaselessly in our march since 1950, when we gave to ourselves the Constitution of India, particularly the Part 4 on Directive Principles State Policy. Had we brought the right to education immediately after 1950, we need not have chased the shadows of adult literacy. By now, the entire nation would have become literate. Had we paid heed to Article 39, which cautions the state against the abuse of tender age of children and the need for protecting childhood and youth against exploitation and moral and material abandonment, we would have abolished child labor and educated all our society. And of course, there is Article 44, which talks of Uniform Civil Code, which is still being debated. Coming to the bill, this is the first serious attempt to protect childhood. Instead of specific enumeration of occupations or processes in the prohibited list, the present amendment prohibits the employment of children altogether in all occupations and processes, save those categories mentioned in Section 3(2)(a) and B, both of which ensure that the exemption will be applicable only after school hours and school vacations. In this manner, this bill paves the way for the effective implementation of the Right to Education Act. The present bill also creates a new category of adolescents, aged 14 to 18 years, and prohibits their employment in hazardous occupations and processes specified in the schedule, which can be modified only by the central government under its rule-making powers. While the present bill is in the direction of giving teeth to the right implementation of the RTE Act, I would draw the kind attention of the Honorable Minister to a small slip between the cup and the lip. While the aim of the RTE Act is to provide elementary education to all irrespective of age, The current bill seems to allow adolescents, 14 to 18 years, to be employed even if they have not completed elementary education. It seems advisable to make child labor permissible to adolescents only if they have completed elementary education. There is an apprehension that the exemption proposed in Section 3(2)(a) and B may open the floodgates for continuance of child labor. This is not so. There is an objective behind this section, which is to preserve and continue the paramparagat occupations and skills which have been passed on from one generation to another in arts and crafts like handlooms and handicrafts, temple architecture, etc., which really constitute the idea of India. If this safeguard is not there, there is a danger of this legislation de-skilling India and then compelling us to search avenues for reskilling. I would say that only in post-independence India, we seem to have played havoc with a school curriculum, ignoring the need for imparting skills in the primary and middle school level. I recall that during my childhood schooling in a district board school in a place called Pattukottai in Tamil Nadu, during the last days of British Raj, I had to learn carpentry as part of the curriculum. The aroma of fresh wood shavings in the craft lab of the school is still lingering in my nostrils. I have some reservations on the wholesale exemption to entertainment industry. Working for a few hours outside the school hours for audiovisual advertisements is one thing, but it is altogether a different ball game to engage children in mega serials like Bal Hanuman and Bal Ganesh, which run for years and years, during which period the child completely forfeits its entire childhood. I would suggest that the Ministries of I&B and Women and Child Development, together with the Labour Ministry, constitute a joint committee to work out guidelines for such occupations. To conclude, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. This bill entirely depends on the state governments to make it succeed or fail. Implementation is not necessarily achieved only in prescribing punishments. The focus of this bill is intrinsically linked with the focus of RTA, right to education. I would hence suggest that the neighborhood school is the right place for ensuring that this legislation works. Close monitoring of attendance in these schools should be the preferred route for making this legislation succeed. The 1986 Act was successful to some extent in curbing child labor in the organized sector. The prevalence of child labor in the pyrotechnic factories of Shivakasi in Tamil Nadu, which is my home state, and the luxury carpet weaving centers in UP and Rajasthan, which used to be my Karma Bhumi, which employed mainly infant labor, the nimbler the fingers, the higher the knots, are broadly the spectra of the past. But the evil has now spread to the unorganized sector. It is my earnest hope that this legislation we are considering will altogether eliminate child labor and restore childhood to its rightful place. Kofi Annan said, "There is no trust more sacred than the one the world holds with children." And it is this trust in Bachpan Bachao which we honor through this historic testament enshrined in this bill. With these words, I support this bill.
Thank you, Sri Ramakrishna ji. Thank you very much. Now, Srimati Vandana Chavan. No. Now, Dr. K. Rao.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'll give just, we must consider this. First of all, I'm very unhappy with the bill. At the same time, I support the bill. Well, life itself is paradox. Because the reality situation, the complexities of the socio-economic conditions of this country need to be understood before we talk about this child labor. The fact is, it is a curse to be born a poor and a cruelty to live one. We know all this, but that is the reality. This is not the new bill at all. These few amendments I have brought in, and I don't think maleficent things are added to it. We have brought in adolescent here. question today is, why do we want this to be prevented? You have linked it directly with that of RTE. I think all the members were provoked by the presence of Mr. Javadekar here, new HRD, and started talking about the only education system. This has nothing to do with education. You are preparing a ground where you don't allow the children to go to one side and allow them a scope to get into the schools. They're entirely different. But if Javadekar Sahab can really attract those boys of that age group into his schools, not say school, but a play schools, wherein they can be attracted and taught, things would have been different. Then he has to look into the schooling system, he has to look into syllabus, he has to look into the training, monitoring, all these things. That's another matter. So I'm not trying to talk. I'm not trying to talk about the, I'm not talking, trying to talk about the foreign affairs and all other things. I'm also not becoming such emotional like Ravi Verma can do. We all know the kind of situation we have inherited. But the question today remains that something like 500,000 people, that is also a wrong figure. If you are taking unorganized sector into it, it is more than 2 crores, because 1.3 crores is in the agricultural labor, in which you are sure 80% of people are children. If you take it to that, a lot of people are there. That is the reality situation. That is the reality check. Now what do? We had some kind of a thing known as the prohibition of child labor. We don't want our children to go into work and get out of the schools. I'm not also getting into semantics, not nuances of the words as to whether child should be called labor or not. Those are things which can look to be looked into. Now how do we face this reality? This is a bill. There was one bill. They thought that it needs some kind of amendments so that it can be tightened. But one thing, let me tell you, because Jadoji said 1 or 5 because he had spoke before me, he just said 5 things which I wanted to refer as points. So the question today is, the bill that you have brought in had few porous, as she says, are few wantings in that. Some kind of a, I would consider them as a vacuum, but there are few distinct also. First, the age. Let me tell the even Advocate General from Tamil Nadu that the age of a particular this bill need not be the age of other bills also. Every bill, when it is talking about its subject, will describe what age should fit to that. So age is not the problem for me. Age has become a problem because you have directly linked with RTE. What you said is either 6 to 14 or, by talking about RTE, you said or what the section so and so of the RTE says. That RTE section says until he completes his elementary. I either complete my elementary up to 14th year or I may take some more years. Having connected that here, there is some kind of a distortion or disconnection which the honorable member from Tamil Nadu wanted to explain. There are very pertinent things you must look into, since you have brought it in already there. Now the second question today arises is, now you had given some kind of exemption. On the new subject that brought in adolescents, it is not for sale. First of all, you totally banned the child labor. That's all right. But totally banned it. Whether it's correct or not, there is a debate going on in the world. There is a very strong, deep debate going on in this country as to whether totally banning children from going there in particular socio-economic conditions, is it right or wrong? Will it be a burden or will it solve the problem? I will not go into that. But nonetheless, I think it's a good step provided we are able to implement it. Because legislation is not a permanent, a good solution or a foolproof solution to the issues that we raise. It is at best a legitimacy, gives at best the legitimacy. We have removed dowry, but dowry still continues. All sorts of things. So it is that is what every member here wanted to say. How do we implement it? When we say about the exemptions that you brought in, about the homework, the work in the family, the domestic field. Now where is the monitoring system we have? As it is, since I have been along with you in the Minister Day in the Labour, you don't have the inspectorate at all. The implementation of this thing is left to the states. What is the inspectorate strength there? Have we improved the resource there? No, we have not. So now you are trying to monitor the entire state or entire country, that becomes another problem for you. But yet it should be there. I'm only trying to bring in what kind of things that you, what issues that I should draw your attention to. Sir, then other thing, hazardous use the word. My honorable member was very right. From 18 you have brought into 3 is good because you have generalized the subject like mining, what you call explosive setting. But the hazardous, you have just copied it from the Factories Act. That is not correct here because this is child labor. There is Factories Act. In the Factories Act, we have brought in 18, thinking that any consequence of such an accident there would lead to a certain kind of situation. When you are talking about child, that would not done. What we have done is, in your own haste, or I don't want to say that, but you have brought in the same thing copied because I have seen the wordings are also brought from there, brought into the schedule. That also needs to be looked into, but what you have said, saving grace is, you said the central government, if it so wants, can change the schedule. Sir, this I bring to adolescent, the exemptions you gave. Adolescent, it says, in these 3 categories, is exempted and it can work. But there is other non-hazardous fields where a man is put to some kind of harassment, put to moral torture. Man is 18. The ILO spoke about in 138 about the same thing. When it wanted a ban on this child working, they brought in this particular issue about the physical, moral, mental torture that man is put to. Now, we are not only aiming at child not going to work at that particular age, holding age, because only he should go to school. Because if that is your only cause, he'll go to school for 8 hours, after that he goes and working. So it's an integrated thing. What I'm saying is, we have made the best effort. It is, I think, an improvement, but though not enough. Much needs to be done. And the 5 points which Mr. Jadhav said, please, I join with him and I agree totally with him, excepting I would like to again remind you, this National Child Labour Project, which you brought in, should come into the picture. If you are trying to implement this, don't forget about your NCLP, because that could be an answer to many of the defects we are now trying to say. Because you can have your own schooling system, for proper rehabilitation, with a schooling system, with a training system, yes, that will do it. Yes. Sir, I will tell you. Sir, another thing, as members have said, to my mind, see, although this is, I welcome the subject because it's an improvement on the earlier act, and it will be one, it will continue. But no policy instrument, a legislation like this can be read in isolation, which you have done. In view of there are conclusive enactments. Please, it has to be worked in collaboration, in coordination with other ministries, particularly the HRD. Then the child and women's welfare.
Now, please.
A coordinated approach by these 3 would only be able to achieve this. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Keshwaraji. Thank you very much. Srimati Kanimuri, I'll call you. Srimati Kanimuri. No mic? No. Now you. Then come. Yes, it's on.
Thank you, sir. This bill, I definitely understand the intentions of the government in bringing this bill, but we should also think whether it's actually really the intentions are being actually carried out. The intent might be to prohibit children from working, but there are amendments which have been brought in this bill which actually go against the intention of the bill, and we have to understand that. We should also understand that I'm sure in this house everybody has a child at home, a son or a daughter or a grandchild or somebody at home. Would we even dream of thinking that the child should come home back from school and work with them, assist us go to a shop and sit and assist the father or go to the fields, will we allow our children at home to do this? None of us would. So what is not right for our children? What right do we have to expect children of other families just because they are not economically empowered? You can't take away the childhood of children who are not economically empowered. This is exactly what we are trying to do. I think we should really look at that and understand that they were taking away the childhood of children because they are economically depressed. Child labor is cruel, exploitative, socially and morally dangerous, and it should be eradicated entirely. And I'm sure everybody has the same opinion. I also like to bring to the notice of this House what happened in Tamil Nadu in the early 50s. The Kulakalvi Tittam, which was brought by Rajaji. He said that children after school should go back home and do what their fathers, what their families were practicing, the same occupations, the same kind of work the parents were practicing. It was called, it is actually caste-based education system. You go back home and learn, continue with what your parents did, your families did, your caste did. There was a big opposition in Tamil Nadu against this. And he actually was made to resign because of this Kulakalvi Tittam which he brought in the early 50s. And after that, Kamaraj, who took over as the chief minister, he scrapped this. So I'd like to remind you that a chief minister had to resign, was made to resign, because the entire state and the Dravidian leaders especially were against this. And they made sure that the system was scrapped, and I hope that history will not repeat itself in the central government. I'd like to bring this to the notice of this House. And we also should understand that we're talking about dropout rates in school, and of course, they were taking credit for, my friends were taking credit for something which happened in 2010 in Tamil Nadu. The dropout rate was brought down to 99 point. Yes, I'm just saying it was in 2010, 2011. Yes, 2010, 2011.
But,
okay.
No. Let her speak. No. Honorable lady member is speaking, so lady member should not obstruct. Lady member should not obstruct.
I'm not saying.
Navneet Krishnan, please. No, let her.
I'm not talking about child labor at all.
No, let her.
I'm the happiest if Tamil Nadu
See,
sir, if Tamil
let her
Nadu
speak.
does not have child labor, I'm the happiest.
You continue.
I'm very proud.
You address the
if
chair.
Tamil Nadu does not have child labor.
No,
I'm very proud.
No,
I'm very happy.
You address the chair.
Yes, sir,
Don't look at the address the chair. You continue your speech.
So there are dropout rates in schools. It's just not because the children cannot go to school. Now the emphasis is on private schools. In many states, even in Tamil Nadu, I think many of the parents think that the private schools are much better than the government schools. I think the minister is here, and I take this opportunity to bring it up, to make sure that the public education system is improved. I'm not talking about only the central government run schools. I think even the state government, the central government too should assist them to make sure that these schools are up to the mark. And there are instances of the governments closing down schools which are the state government schools. So I think this should be stopped to make sure that education is affordable to everybody, and not that everybody has to send their children to get the best education to private schools. I think this has to be taken. And one more issue is, do we actually really care about educating our children, or are we trying to bring out concrete blocks similar to each other from our education system? A child once, when I was talking to him, why does he hate school system so much? He told me, this education system is like asking a bird, a fish, a dog, and a snake. Exams here are like that. Asking a bird, a fish, dog, and snake to climb trees and say, the one who can do that the best, climb a tree the best, among the bird, the fish, the dog, the snake, that person is the best. That person gets the highest mark. What does a bird, fish, dog, what do they gain by climbing a tree? Nothing. But then that is, our education system is aimed at doing that. And we don't care about children who have difficulties in learning. So these children drop out. And these children automatically, because we don't care about helping them, we don't care about reaching out to them. And these children turn towards working because they have no choice for their future. So they immediately take up jobs because society and the families condemn them as useless. So I think education has to be inclusive to stop child labor. And apart from that, I think one important thing we also have to understand is that this bill says that children can go back home and help parents. How many parents are really aware of what is hazardous to the children or not? Not many parents are that aware or well equipped enough to understand what can be hazardous to the child. I mean, so many parents, we know parents did not willingly, knowingly send their children to work in fireworks factories or in cotton yarn factories. They did not know what will happen to the children, how the children's health will be affected. But they still sent them because they're not aware. Even today, when children go and work in the fields, the pesticides, we know what happened in Kerala because of the endosulfan. How many children, unborn children, were affected. So how many parents are really aware of how the pesticides will affect the children? Would we allow our children in our homes to do that? We will not. And today the school curriculum is so difficult for every child. If you expect a child to come back from school, help you with the kind of occupation you've been carrying out, how does the first child finish the homework, which is so much? How do they prepare for the tests, which practically every school believes in having a test every second day? How do they prepare? So you're actually encouraging children to drop out from schools and take up jobs. And child labor is one of the most important things. We cannot actually segregate child trafficking and child labor. They are interconnected. Children who are trafficked are mostly employed as cheap laborers in construction sites, domestic work, factories, and sold for child prostitution. During the period between 2010-2014, there were 3.85 lakh missing children, which means more than 77,000 children go missing every year. And among them, 63% were girls. More than 40% of them remain untraced even till today, over the years. So this Act should recognize these facts and should provide for rehabilitation of children and adolescents rescued. I think the Standing Committee has also insisted that rehabilitation is very important and it cannot be taken up by just one department, not the Labour Department. All the departments, the Women and Child Welfare Department and the Education, the HRD and every department has to, the Rural Development Department, there should be a concentrated effort by all the departments coming together to rehabilitate these children. Without that, nothing can really be changed in their lives. And on one hand, the government is pushing for schemes such as Skill India and skill certification, and the same government is indifferent to the plight of child laborers. And I think we cannot say that a child is a child only till 14. Science has accepted, and all over the world it is accepted, that a child is developing emotionally till the age of 18. So we cannot take the childhood away. We cannot make the child till 8 just because they've crossed the age of 14 to go and work. And working atmosphere is not easy for any child. No employer is going to be considerate. We've seen how they've been exploited, and we've seen that abuses, and especially when it's a girl child, we've seen cases of sexual abuses happening also. So I think our children have to be protected, and I again like to raise this point that what we will not want for our children,
children,
I
yes.
think we cannot
think
allow
that is
any child in this country to undergo. Thank you, sir.
That is the standard to be measured.
Sir?
But we don't want our children to do, should others do. Good thing. Now, Sri Madhusudan Mistri ji. Yes?
Rama this year. 14 poor children.
Okay.
That will be on record.
All right,
It will be on
all right.
record.
All right, okay.
Poor children,
Yes.
14
No,
poor
that's
children.
okay. It is already on record, sit down.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Once you said it is on record.
Sir,
Yeah.
thank you very much for allowing me
You also want something on record?
to speak on.
Derek O'Brien, you do not want something on record? No. Okay.
Sir,
Then,
I have a
Misri ji.
2-3 question for the minister. I just wanted to ask him, who represented you to bring this law? Why are you changing the definition or amending the definition? Has any parents association, anybody who had come to you to say make it from child labor to adolescence? Or is it suo moto from the government side? Who you are making the way for? Industry, multinationals, or the promises you made during the election? Why? I mean, if I have an income and if I have enough money, I won't send my children to work at the age of 15 to 18. I will better send them to, the school and the colleges and so on. So whose children you wanted to employ it? Lower middle class, upper middle class, top class? I mean, it is a very serious question and I just wanted to ask that the minister must reply to it. Whose behest that you are bringing this? Number two, which is under your domain. If I work as a child, I work at the age of 15 in a 1 rupee in Ahmedabad cantonment. 1 rupee at the age of 15 when I was studying in 8th or 9th. My children are not working because I have enough income. My grandchildren never heard of child labor. The point I am making is, why don't you increase the minimum wages of this working class so that they have enough income to at least send their children to the school, rather than, making a way to send them, to the, or amending this law. I mean, I'm quite surprised with the very, the attitude of the government as such. Whose children they wanted to send here? Whose, the entire working class that it seems to be at your disposal, that you wanted to send them anywhere you like. I will look at the agriculture. Agriculture minimum wage is not increased for years. We have 7th pay commission now. What about the minimum wages in all the establishment that under your department? Why is your officers are not been thinking about it? That is my question to you, sir. Number 3, sir, I just wanted to bring to is, what machinery that the labor department has? One labor officer is a labor officer in Payment of Wages Act. He is under the Factories Act. He is under the Migration Act. The Interstate Migration Workers Act. He is also a child labor inspector. So many laws that under which he is an inspector. How many inspections he does in 1 year? What remedy that you have with the state, whether the states are implementing this or not? What control you have with the state labor department, who is in fact completely overlook at the enforcement of these laws in the state? My state is model state. Gujarat is a model state, sir. That is what they say. Despite the fact there were 4, Dalits were so beaten badly that it has become the entire issue in the country. But the fact is that it has, out of 4.2 million child labor which is enumerated by Census of India, highest number is in Gujarat. What kind of a model that we have? I went to the recent lease of 500 kilometers, I think 400 kilometers from Ahmedabad to Jamnagar and so on. All the big industries are been employing them. What remedy you have? What control you have with the state labor department? What you give them? Have you ever, took a stock of how your department is functioning as far as enforcement of the law at the lower level? I was defeated simply because of raising the child labor issues in agriculture from my constituency, because the farmers did not like it, because all the children were employed by an agency of Rajasthan who were brought in cotton seeds in order to see, prepare that, the process so that they can produce the cotton seeds. We are the highest, cotton producing the state. No machinery, no law, no prosecution. In front of our eyes, I am pretty sure even your officers, even wherever they go in the national highways and dabas, children are working with what action they have taken. Have they ever asked the state labor department that how you are functioning? I mean, these are the issues you must apply, reply to this house. Are you going to strengthen this one? I mean, this is a, sir, very serious question about the functioning of the department and the resources that department has. After liberalization, Labor Department is the biggest casualty, which they have no control over it. And let me, the Prime Minister is my state, from my state. I know how things are been working in the entire industry, whether it is, the agriculture, whether it is in a carpet, whether it is in, on the sea coast, and everywhere. No laws. It doesn't exist. Will he answer while, when he is making an intervention? And I hope he makes an intervention. Otherwise, sir, I don't think that we should at all amend and we should support the amendment of the,
Now you can go,
this act, sir.
Okay.
This is what that I have to ask, and I have to, justice. I feel, and I feel that the government must will reply to all these very basic questions before bringing this law at a, at a ground level.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Honorable